Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 42nd ever Highlight Haven interview. My name is Matthew Heiserman, and today we are joined by JMU safety Curtis Harris Lopez. Curtis, it's great to have you on.
Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate it.
Of course, really appreciate you coming on. Let's get right into it. I just want to start by asking when you first knew that you wanted to play football.
I believe it was in the second grade that I knew that football was for me.
Mhm. Yeah, and when you started playing football, were you always a safety or were you more of a utility guy playing all around the field?
When I first started, I was playing both ways, honestly. I was more so an offensive guy when I was younger and kind of grew more towards the defensive side as I grew up. But when I first started, it was more so offense than defense, but I played both sides.
And was there a specific offensive position that you played most of?
Yeah, growing up, I was more of a running back, slot receiver kind of guy. And then
Mhm,
when I got into high school, I believe it was my sophomore into junior year, I got the job to be a quarterback. So that's when the whole quarterback thing came about.
mhm. Yeah, and you obviously spent the last 4 seasons of your career, at Holy Cross. Was there a specific moment coming out of high school when you knew that Holy Cross was the best option for you?
Yeah, it was towards the end of my senior season of high
Mhm,
school, really. Um, Obviously, I was a COVID recruit, so there's a lot that came into it with COVID and teams and who was coming back to schools and whatnot. So I believe it was at the end of my season of November when I knew that Holy Cross was the right spot for me. So I committed.
mhm. And was there something specific that made you so interested in Holy Cross?
Yeah, I love the staff, honestly. As soon as
Mhm,
I got there, the staff and even the players treated me like I was already on the team as soon as I got on the campus. So I
mhm.
fell in love with the staff immediately. And then obviously, with people that have been to Holy Cross, they know what Holy Cross looks like, and the campus
Mhm,
is beautiful, great people. So it was just a
mhm.
great fit for me.
Yeah, and after you entered the transfer portal at Holy Cross, you received offers from schools such as Hawaii and Kent State. Was there a specific reason why you ultimately ended up choosing JMU?
Um, one main reason was obviously I was the original staff that I had
Mhm,
chosen
mhm,
prior, so that was a big choice on why I chose JMU, as well as when I went down there and visited, I fell in love with the campus again, right?
mhm.
They had two different sides to campus, which I felt was both beautiful. I can tell that Virginia really cares about football down there, so I just knew as soon as I got there that Virginia or JMU was a spot for me.
Yeah, now, were you familiar with JMU before Chesney and Dean Kennedy went there, or was that kind of when you were first introduced to the college?
No, I did know of them, obviously,
Mhm,
when they're in the CAA prior. So I see
mhm,
had them watched them have a couple runs in the playoffs and whatnot.
mhm,
So I obviously knew of them, but I wasn't too deep in tune
mhm.
with JMU. Obviously now I am, but I
Yeah.
knew about them before.
Yeah, and with Holy Cross being an FCS school, what are you expecting to be the most challenging part about transitioning from the FCS to the FBS?
Honestly, probably the size of the kids. I know that in the FBS, kids are obviously 3 inches taller, probably 20 to 30 pounds heavier,
Mhm.
depending on the position. So I think getting used to the size and the speed again, just like I was coming out of high school, is something I'm gonna have to get used to from the start, but I have no worries about it.
And I've heard people talk about the size of the players a lot when making that transition. You played with a really solid team at Holy Cross. They had a great offense, obviously. And I was talking about with Jacob Dobbs recently, who was obviously at Holy Cross before going to JMU, and he was talking about how good that Holy Cross offense was. So it made it so his transition to JMU didn't really feel like there was much of a change in terms of competition. Is that the same thing with you?
Yeah, obviously our team was, I believe, the best team in the country, and with the line that we had, they were the best offensive line in the country. So to be able to match up against them in practice every day made me a better player, and I'm sure that it'll pay dividends when I go to the next level.
Yeah, and recently you were named to the 2024 All Patriot League football second team defense. What does that accolade mean to you?
It means a lot, and it means that
Mhm.
all the work I put in is finally paying off. So hopefully next time I can get first team and maybe even All American.
Yeah, absolutely. And this past season at Holy Cross, you had 56 total tackles, nine and a half tackles for loss, two interceptions, seven passes defended, and one forced fumble. What's one thing that you take pride in when it comes to your play style?
All of it, everything you just named is what I
Mhm.
take pride in. Really, just making sure that I'm around the football at all times, and I'm giving everything I got every single play.
Yeah, and on November 16th against Bucknell, you got your second interception of the season, which was returned 56 yards for your first career pick six at the college level. What was going through your mind as that play was unfolding?
It was a surreal feeling, really.
Mhm,
In that moment, I was guarding a tight end, or a lineman actually,
mhm.
who obviously I know isn't going to release for a route. He ended up blocking, and I just kind of got in the window, was in the right spot at the right time, made a play, and ended up scoring, which was a big, big play for us in that moment in the game. So that's really just everything that went through my head.
Yeah, and you were also involved as a kick returner last season. You had 10 attempts for 269 yards, including a 95-yard touchdown. What was the difference, or was there a difference really with that pick six and the kick return touchdown?
Yeah, I think for the pick, everything kinda happens so fast, whereas
Mhm,
kick return, you have time to really think when the ball is in the air. So, things kinda play out a little bit more slower, I feel like, on kickoff compared to a pick where everything just
mhm.
changes so abruptly and so fast. But in terms of the feeling of scoring, they're kind of both the same, both huge plays, one obviously being our special teams, which is so important in football. So, it both was the same feeling.
Yeah, and would you say that your time and your experience as a kick returner has helped you at all as a safety as well?
Yeah, obviously I can work on my speed in that moment when
Mhm,
I'm running on kick return. It keeps me warm throughout the game, so I'm not sitting on the sideline and getting
mhm.
cold. So it helps a lot. It gets my name out there more than I can do some special teams things rather than just play defense. So it helps a lot.
Yeah, and throughout your college career, you've gotten the opportunity to go up against teams such as Syracuse, Harvard, Rhode Island, just to name a few. How does this tougher competition help you improve your game?
It helps me a lot, right? Those are the best of the best and the best conferences in football. So to be able to play my best and show that I can play with the dudes that are in the ACC and teams like that, it means a lot.
Yeah, and against Syracuse, for instance, that obviously wasn't the best game for Holy Cross. Were you sort of Did that affect you at all, or were you more just happy that you were able to play against some good competition, get ready for the next level, and appreciative that you were able to go up against some better competition?
I treat every game the same, whether we're playing a really, really good team or we're playing a terrible
Mhm,
team. So my mindset is never going to change no matter who we're playing.
mhm.
Even if the team's really, really good, either way, they're gonna have to show me how good they are, and I have to show them how good I am. So it really doesn't matter who I'm playing. I'm gonna give my best no matter what.
Yeah, I love to hear that, and of course, you've played in some very important games throughout your career. Is there something specific you do to handle the pressure in these situations? Or obviously, you're a senior, are you at the point where you don't really even have nerves ahead of these games?
Um, I everyone gets nerves.
Mhm,
Like they're lying if they're saying they don't get
mhm,
nerves.
mhm.
My nerves usually come right when I'm kind of walking off the bus, really. But as soon as like the pads go on and I'm on the field, the nerves kind of go away, and I know like there's nothing to be nervous about. All the hard work I put in for that week to study and game plan, um, I prepared enough for this moment, so there's nothing to be worried about, and then it's just time to go.
Yeah, now are there any pregame rituals you have or any music you listen to get yourself in the right mindset ahead of the games?
Yeah, yeah. I have to make sure that I stretch every time before a game.
Mhm,
I make sure that I do at least one warm up lap while I'm running. I do little like slow pedal stuff just so I can get like little mind connection going. I make sure I listen to the same three songs every time I get off the bus.
mhm.
But those are like the three main things. I also make sure that I drink a salt drink before pregame so that I don't cramp during the game.
Now what are those 3 songs that you listen to, off the bus?
I listen to Future, I listen to
Mhm,
Drake, and I listen to Meek Mill.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And is there a specific NFL player you try and model your game after or take inspiration from?
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey is actually one of
Mhm,
my favorite
mhm,
players in the league. Everything he does, I think he plays with so much emotion when he plays, and that's something that I love to play with. I think he's such a good football player. Obviously, he ended up hurting his knee years, I think it was last year or 2 years ago,
mhm.
and he came back. In the first game back, he had a pick six, so it was
Nice.
like he never left. So everything that he does in the game of football, I try to model like and be just like him.
Yeah, and these last 2 seasons at Holy Cross, you've worn the jersey number 21. Is there a specific reason why you made that change, or was it kinda just a random decision?
So 21 is actually a family number. So
Mhm,
I've actually worn it pretty much my entire life.
mhm,
So it means more than just a number to me. It's obviously my family is on my back and everything I do for is for that number. So it means a lot to me.
Yeah, and I'm not as familiar with the, Holy Cross roster from a few years ago. I'm assuming 21 was taken by another player?
Yes, it
Mhm.
was.
Yeah, and, as a college student, how are you able to balance that schoolwork while also giving 100% on the field?
It's hard, but it's
Mhm,
doable. You just got to make sure
mhm,
you have a plan on when you're going to do your work and then a plan
mhm,
on when you're going to train. But it's what you signed up for, so you knew what you're getting into from the start.
mhm.
At first, obviously, it's hard as a freshman trying to figure out time management, but over time, you get used to it, and everything will just play out like it's supposed to.
Yeah, and throughout your entire college career so far, has there been a specific game that you would consider to be your favorite or most memorable?
Yeah, Boston College is
Mm,
easily one of the most memorable games I think I've ever played in. Um, Up there is also Army because we played on Veterans Day, so
yeah.
there's not a lot of people get to play Army at Army again on Veterans Day, but being playing against BC, obviously I'm from New Hampshire, so to be able to play a New England team and kind of grow up watching Boston College, it meant a lot to be able to play against them and kind of show that I can play at that level.
Yeah, and this season you will be reuniting with former Holy Cross teammates of yours, including Matthew Sluka and Pat McMurtry. How would you describe the relationship you've been able to build with these guys over the years?
It means a lot, honestly. Um, Everyone's obviously from different backgrounds and different areas, so to be able to meet each other and kind of get to know one another. It's a very surreal feeling to be able to make new friends and make new relationships. And it's obviously awesome that we get to see each other again at JMU for one last go around. So I'm so excited to get that thing rolling.
Yeah, and recently JMU brought in former Alabama defensive backs coach Colin Hitchler to be their new defensive coordinator. Hitchler also spent time as a safeties coach with both Cincinnati and Wisconsin. He obviously has a lot of previous experience. And at the safety, do you think this hiring kind of gives you a special advantage considering how familiar Hitchler is with the safety position?
Yeah, no doubt. Obviously, he's played at literally the highest
Yeah.
level of football at one of the best schools in the country, obviously, if not the best school in the country. I once was, still am obviously a big Alabama fan growing up. So for someone to come from Alabama to be able to coach me now, it's a feeling like no other really. And honestly can't wait to meet him and to get things going.
Yeah, I love to hear that. And obviously, this is your final year of eligibility. Are there any specific personal goals and team goals that you have for this upcoming season with the Dukes?
Yeah, I hope to honestly repeat what I did this past year. I hope to get obviously the same accolades, if not better. I hope to win a lot of football games at JMU and obviously get a run going for the national championship.
Yeah, now for team goals, is there a specific standard that JMU was kind of hoping to achieve this season? Maybe a bowl game victory, college football playoffs, something like that?
The standard obviously is to reach a bowl game, but I think it's something that we got to move above that now and get into the playoffs and hopefully get national championship or at least a run going. Um, the standard obviously is the standard, and at Holy Cross, the standard was a playoff run for the national championship at FCS level. So nothing's obviously changed from FCS to FBS with Coach Chesney, and I'm sure he thinks the exact same way.
I do have one final question to ask before we wrap things up. What's one fact that the average fan would not know about you, just so JMU fans can kind of get to know you a little more personally?
That's honestly a good question. I'm not sure really. Just to know that I guess one thing I was a dual sport athlete, so I can do it all really. I played basketball in high school as well as ran track, so I'm not someone who just played football, but I can do a lot more things than just play ball. So I guess that's one thing.
Yeah, absolutely. With that being said, I can't thank you enough for coming on. I really do appreciate it. Is there anything else you want to say to the people watching before we wrap things up?
Can't wait to get down to JMU and get things going. And thank you again, Matthew, for having me on the show. I appreciate it so much, and I'm glad that I was able to help you out and you were able to help me out.
Of course, really appreciate you coming on. Looking forward, obviously, to seeing how this season plays out. Again, big thanks to Curtis Harris Lopez for being the 42nd ever Highlight Haven interview guest. And as always, we will see you next time.